Now on Fox 13 News at 9, the alternative to a bad Yelp review? What happened at a Sandy car dealership that has them sweeping up the glass and shaking their heads? You'll hear from police and a witness. Plus, he declared himself a religious leader, and he used the position to sexually abuse young girls. A judge tells Sam Bateman his fate after survivors of the abuse tell their story in court. And a national murder mystery may have been solved. We learn about the man arrested in the killing of United Healthcare's CEO.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Good evening. So glad you're with us here at 9. I'm Max Roth, filling in for Bob Evans this week. Our top story, a man has been arrested and booked into jail after driving his newly purchased vehicle into the dealership where he bought it. Fox 13 News reporter Avery Klanowski talked to police and employees.
What would have happened? My daughter, it just would have been really bad.
Eileen Hernandez is grateful she was not at work on Monday when a customer drove his vehicle into their building.
How that person acted out of rage and how just the impact was, how fast and how hard it hit, there was no doubt that I would have been probably just, who knows, it could have been fatal. It could have been fatal.
Sergeant Greg Moffitt with Sandy Police says a man purchased the vehicle from Timdale Mazda and wanted to return it after finding issues.
He came back, but with a rage, just, without thinking, he just acted out on rage.
Sergeant Moffitt says the man told the business he would drive through their front door if he did not get his money back.
The person did it on purpose, out of rage. Just, it's beyond me. It's beyond me. It makes me feel furious.
Hernandez has worked at the Sandy Mazda location for 4 years. She's never experienced anything like this before. The video of the crash left her in shock.
I froze. I really couldn't think at that moment. The first thing I thought, I need to call my mom or something. I called her, and that's when I honestly just broke down.
Asking people to think before they act, not to put yourself or others in harm's way.
Please be careful with when you conduct the vehicle. Just please be safe these holidays. We don't want a catastrophe or something,
Hernandez is thankful no one got hurt. In Sandy, Avery Klanowski, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A 73-year-old woman was hit and killed by a car early this morning in Cottonwood Heights. This happened at the intersection at 6200 South and Wasatch Boulevard just before 7 a.m. Police tell Fox 13 News the woman was walking against traffic and was in the crosswalk at the time, though she did not have the right of way to cross. The driver stayed on the scene and is cooperating in the investigation. Investigators don't think that driver was impaired. The crash is under investigation. There's a big change for those who use Utah-based Select Health for insurance. Effective January 1st, CVS pharmacies will no longer be in-network for Select Health members. A spokesperson for the company released this statement, which says in part, quote, after a thorough evaluation, it was determined that continuing the current arrangement would have shifted significant costs to our members and did not align with our commitment to affordability or our mission to prioritize the needs of our members. Only 3% of Select Health members' prescriptions were filled by CVS pharmacies, they tell us. Well, switching gears to weather. Wow, we have some good photographers in our audience, and thank you for that. Take a look at some of these photos sent in to our Utah's Weather Authority Facebook page. After a week of bad air quality from the inversion, clear blue skies are back in northern Utah. And what a relief. Let's check in with Utah's Weather Authority, Breck Bolton. Breck, this is so welcome. It's so good to see that.
Goodness, I know.
Yeah, it's just feeling good about going outside.
Absolutely. We went through that inversion episode for about 10 days. We needed a break. We're getting it. Of course, that cold front moving through, bringing colder air above that allowed that cold air at the surface to lift up, mix out. As today we had mostly clear conditions through the morning and then a few clouds in the afternoon. View from our Natural History Museum camera. Looks a little hazy out there, but that's not haze. We have just a few light light snow flurries moving through downtown Salt Lake City right now. As we're kind of seeing the end of this storm system, it didn't produce much in precipitation. We had snow amounts anywhere between 1 to 3 inches for the mountains. Some valley locations getting in the mix just a little bit, but the big story is the air quality. Green here as we look at the situation all throughout northern Utah, passing along the Wasatch Front towards the southern end of the Wasatch Front into Utah County, where good means green, and we're going to be holding on to green conditions at least to start off your Tuesday, where highs today about where they should be for this time of year. We got up to 38 degrees in Provo, low 40s from Ogden to Salt Lake City. Today's high in Evanston, 26 degrees. That's chilly throughout most of central Utah. Definitely felt a cool down here in transitioning from the weekend into the work week. We're currently right now, we're in the 30s, 20s though in Logan, already down into the teens where it's going to be a cold night. As this cold front moves further south, we've got this cold northwesterly flow going. Wrapped up in that flow, a few high clouds still in place. Could produce maybe a mountain flurry or a flurry for the valleys here. The lake trying to kick in with that cold air, but the moisture is definitely drying out. So we're actually going to be clearing out as we'll be looking at overnight conditions. Mostly clear as temperatures dropping down into the low 20s. So cold start to your Tuesday, but high pressure building back in. Does that mean the haze is going to build back in? We'll talk about that coming up in just a bit.
Thanks, Breck. Well, a judge in West Jordan scheduled more hearings for condemned killer Ralph Leroy Menzies. Menzies is facing the death penalty for kidnapping and killing Maureen Hunsaker in the 1980s. His lawyers argue that because he now has dementia, executing him would constitute cruel and unusual punishment. Court records show a hearing has been scheduled for April. Well, today a federal jury in Arizona sentenced Samuel Bateman, a self-proclaimed prophet of a polygamous religious sect near the Utah-Arizona border, to 50 years in prison. It's a story we've been following since 2022. Cameras were not allowed inside today's hearing because it was in federal court, but Bateman heard from some of the same women and young girls he took as what he called spiritual wives. He claimed more than 20 women and young girls, some were as young as 9 years old. Bateman's group was a small offshoot of the FLDS Church, once led by Warren Jeffs. In court, survivors addressed their former abuser, describing what they went through, calling his actions evil, but telling him he has no power over them. Those who have worked with some of these survivors spoke to members of the media after today's hearing.
That was incredible because I know how long it takes for some of these girls to unravel, women to unravel, and actually get to the point where they can speak to other outsiders. So to stand up in a court like that's pretty impactful and incredible.
Bateman said nothing before sentencing. The judge told the 48-year-old, quote, "You should never have the opportunity to be free," before handing down the maximum sentence.
These rising costs just aren't numbers on the bill. They represent sacrifices we shouldn't have to make during what should be the most peaceful years of our lives.
Today, Utahns sounded off on Rocky Mountain Power's proposed rate hike. We go in depth on the issue. And what is next for what they call Ballpark Next? We're going to take a closer look at 3 possible options for Smith's Ballpark. Well, you may remember that after nearly 9 months, we're getting answers to what investigators believe caused a deadly home explosion in American Fork. Let's go there, where Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold has been sifting through the report released today.
40 pages outlining what investigators believe played a role in an early morning explosion at this duplex in American Fork back in late March. James Hopkinson lives near where the incident took place.
It was so loud. It was about 10 minutes to 6. It was so loud that I thought it was my own house at first.
78-year-old Kathy Harrison was killed in the explosion. Another woman and a pet dog ended up surviving.
The woman that survived was blown out of the house into our cul-de-sac, and we're the ones that found her.
The American Fork Fire Marshal and lead fire investigator concluded the cause and classifications of the explosion and ensuing fire are considered unintentional or accidental. However, they pointed out the home explosion could have been prevented with proper awareness. The report goes on to say that data was collected through interviews, usage records from Dominion Energy, now known as Enbridge Gas, and physical evidence. That indicated that when work was finished on the natural gas system of the duplex the day before, the exterior inline valve located on the accessory natural gas line was opened by one of the people conducting service on the system. Usage data from the duplex units, according to the report, showed that natural gas meter readings collected hourly showed a significant increase in usage from one of the units. That increase began around the time the Dominion Energy employee finished work on the system and ended near the time the home explosion took place on the morning of March 20th. The report states that as work was being finished the day before, Dominion Energy applied a new coating of paint on the metal piping to prevent it from corroding. It says evidence visibly showed the valve was closed when the paint was applied, but once the pipe painting was done, the valve was opened, which allowed gas to flow into the home through the uncapped accessory line. As for an ignition source, the report says the furnace igniter was the source that ignited the explosion after the concentrations of natural gas reached flammable levels.
But we have all understood, and we have been waiting for this report to confirm that, which in essence it does.
In American Fork, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, that was not the only home explosion on the Wasatch Front this year. A deadly explosion in South Jordan is still under investigation. 15-year-old Logan Hansen was killed in the blast last month. According to the NTSB, there was a natural gas leak in the pipeline about 150 feet from the home. That finding came from the NTSB's preliminary report. Now, their final report is still expected. And in Holiday, authorities had to blow up a home in April after unstable dynamite left abandoned for decades was found inside. No one was hurt in that incident. Moving on to our big story tonight, Rocky Mountain Power customers had the chance to tell the company what they think about a proposed rate hike of 18 to 30%. There were no attendees speaking in favor of the potential increase, but it was a big crowd, and those who did speak worried about affordability, the environment, health, and the impact on industry. Here's a sense of that hearing.
We've received literally hundreds of individual messages.
For every person that I help with up to $200 a month, I'm turning away at least 6.
For seniors like myself, these rising costs just aren't numbers on a bill. They represent sacrifices we shouldn't have to make during what should be the most peaceful years of our lives.
And the housing crisis that we're in.
I find it more and more difficult every day to make ends meet.
That the people you're asking to pay more can't pay more.
Electricity and fuel, energy, are crucial input costs for agriculture, accounting for approximately 15% of U.S. agricultural production expenses. Such a drastic increase in electricity costs could lead to higher food security or higher food prices and potential job losses in our sector.
Coal is getting expensive, and the company that wants to burn that coal should have to pay that price.
Which we all know have such adverse health effects for us, and the downturn of that with heart disease, lung disease.
And so for our big energy provider to be embracing fossil fuel combustion, which is a source of so much pollution, at the expense of pursuing cleaner energy sources is really disappointing.
Also, a group of about a dozen people gathered outside of the Heber Wells State Office building before the hearing. Some held signs made to look like the cards in a Monopoly game. They say it symbolizes the utility's control over energy rates and its reliance on coal and gas. And the Utah State Legislature appears to be planning a bill to break up Rocky Mountain Power's parent company. Lawmakers have been fuming over PacifiCorp's environmental policies in other states and their proposed rate hike. Stan Holmes is with Utah Citizens Advocating Renewable Energy. His group opposes the rate hike, and they oppose the legislature's idea also of breaking up PacifiCorp.
They're trying to prop up the fossil fuel industry, in particular coal, and you can see what happened in the last legislative session. Where basically the taxpayers of Utah are the fallback position to prop this up.
Well, it remains to be seen if a breakup bill will emerge, but signs point toward it. The legislature begins meeting next month. And Fox 13 took a look at what electricity costs people across the country. According to the Energy Information Administration, the average cost of electric power in America is just under 17 cents per kilowatt hour for residential households. That average is based on numbers from September this year. Now, Utah sits well under that average at just over 12 cents per kilowatt hour. Last year, the number was around 11 cents per kilowatt hour. We have the lowest prices in the western U.S. Idaho is close behind, followed by Montana. Now, the only state cheaper than Utah is Louisiana, and they're close, just below 12 cents per kilowatt hour. Salt Lake City's ballpark neighborhood faces a big question. Will there still be a ballpark? It's been a location for Salt Lake City baseball for more than a century. Well, now the Bees are headed to South Jordan, and the University of Utah baseball team has committed to playing at the ballpark just through 2026. So what's next? Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gooby has the update on the Ballpark Next project.
People who care about the ballpark are making their voices heard.
I've lived in this neighborhood for about 6 years. I grew up going to the Bees game, and you know, it's been a historical standpoint in the neighborhood for so long, and I think it's important that we preserve it.
One of them was Katie McKeon at a community meeting for people to see 3 possible options for the ballpark once the Salt Lake Bees move to a new stadium in South Jordan.
It's important to still have the legacy of the ballpark, but it needs a refresh. It needs some new ideas and more community engagement.
The first scenario is if the ballpark is preserved and the focus is on sports. The second is an adaptive reuse, using a part of the existing structure but keeping the emphasis on culture. And the third is removing the whole ballpark and keeping nature as the theme. And people got to pick their favorite.
Walk towards the scenario that most excites you in this moment.
Most picked option 2, the adaptive reuse model.
I think it represents a nice compromise for a lot of people. We've seen the ballpark structure be so iconic for the entire time we've lived in the neighborhood, all of us.
To give feedback on the 3 possible scenarios, people use these Post-it notes. Blue for something they're excited about and yellow for something they're concerned about. They stuck these on the boards so the city can take the ideas into consideration.
The community is listening. They're listening hard. We've been showing up for meetings about this for 1.5 years now, and I think people are going to keep showing up because we care deeply what happens to this space.
The city project team hopes to have a final design framework by early 2025.
I'm happy to see what comes out of it, and I think through collaboration and everyone's input, it should be really great.
In Salt Lake City, I am Maithili Gooby, Fox 13 News, Utah.
And as for the Salt Lake Bees' new home, construction is still going on at Daybreak Field in time for opening day in April. Field level suites have officially been installed. Terrace and diamond clubs will be offered, whatever those will mean, and batter's boxes are also in play. The final pieces of grass were installed back in October. There will also be a new track station opening by the new ballpark coming opening day 4 months from now.
All right, turning to your weather forecast. The storm moving through, clearing out the haze, bringing a little bit of snow. We show you some of the snow amounts. We're on this storm. Again, we knew it wouldn't bring much, but for some of the mountain locations like Alta, picking up 3 inches. Red Butte Reservoir, 5 inches. A few spots through central and southern Utah getting about 1 inch. The storm's biggest impact, though, again, as we're breathing easier, getting rid of the haze. Highs today and lows right where we should be for this time of year. Right now, it's chilly out there. Temperatures already down into the low 30s, at least through Ogden and Provo, as we're expecting to see overnight lows getting down into the 20s. Okay, we mentioned, hey, we're in the green air quality wise. We take a look at our air quality sensors powered by Telus here, moving through Salt Lake Valley, Utah County. Green, and that's where we'll start things off tomorrow morning. But in the afternoon, as high pressure building in, and we do see these cold temperatures, we can start setting up a little bit of an inversion, which pushes the quality concern there to yellow, moderate heading in the middle of the week. Now, I want to talk about something here, looking at the state snowpack. For today, not looking good here across northern Utah. Below average, looking up the Bear River Range there, 67%. Looking good towards western, west central Utah. Down towards St. George, not good. Now, eastern Utah, not too bad. And really, the focus is across northern Utah. I want to compare to the same time last year, where last year here across northern Utah, we were above average. Still across southwestern Utah, not looking good. So it's kind of been moving around where the focus towards central, eastern, and portions of southern Utah, not bad. But here across the north, we need some help. We're not going to be getting it from Mother Nature, at least looking over the next 6 to 10 days. From the Climate Prediction Center, we're leaning here across the state where below average precipitation. We do see a series of storms moving through the region, but once again, they're kind of weak storms where the storm that brought the cold front and just a little bit of snow moving off towards the east. High pressure as it builds in. This is what will set up the inversion and some haze, but we'll break down that high pressure. So this is not going to be like the event we saw last week. Then we get this little ripple in the jet stream. It's not a deep trough, it's just a ripple where on Thursday we bring a mixture of some rain and snow, and then potentially towards the weekend another storm system looking weak coming through, but it will keep the air mixed out. But as far as building up that snowpack, we'll get a few little inches here and there, but we're waiting for the arrival of that big storm that brings feet of snow, and we don't see it here over the next several days. Now tonight it'll be cold. We're clearing out. We'll wake up mostly clear skies, a little bit of haze throughout the afternoon. Temperatures look to be a little bit colder under that northerly flow. Many spots only getting up into the 30s. Looks like the high in Logan 34, 30 in Park City, 40s in Moab, and only upper 40s in St. George. Upper 40s to 50s, staying dry. A few clouds and some winds, but with those little ripples in the jet stream, doesn't do much for southern Utah. Northern Utah, it brings that mixture of rain and snow. Thursday afternoon into Friday morning, it turns into snow. We keep it in the 40s. The second storm moving through Sunday. Again, that keeps us mixed out, but no big storms here, as we'll be allowed temperatures to warm up just a little bit, but we're keeping the haze away. We're back after the break.
We have learned a fire this afternoon has forced 6 families from their homes. They lived in apartments in Salt Lake City's Rose Park neighborhood. It happened at 856 West Fig Tree Place just after 1 p.m. Firefighters found smoke throughout the complex. They tell Fox 13 they see an uptick in fires during the winter due to people using different heating sources.
If you're using a space heater, make sure that you're not placing it next to a combustible, at least 3 feet away from any combustible. Sometimes we have candles this time of year with the holidays. Same thing with candles, make sure that they're away from any combustibles.
Now, no one was hurt, and that doesn't speak to a specific cause. We don't yet know what the cause is. There was also a house fire in Kearns today. This one happened at 4926 South, 4180 West, just after 3. The Unified Fire Authority says the fire started in the back of the home. Nobody was home at the time, and that house is a total loss. Well, coming up, the murder suspect accused of killing the CEO of United Healthcare faced a judge this evening. Details on his charges, including new charges just filed tonight. And how rap mogul and megastar Jay-Z is responding to disturbing allegations made against him, connecting him with disgraced rap mogul Diddy. Making national headlines, police arrested a man in connection to last week's murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. That murder in New York. This is the suspect, Luigi Mangione, and he was arraigned in person where he did not enter a plea on several charges, not including that shooting. But we just learned that prosecutors in Manhattan filed charges against him for the murder specifically. He's now being held without bail in Pennsylvania, awaiting extradition to New York. So according to New York's police commissioner, investigators got a tip from a McDonald's employee in Altoona, Pennsylvania. The 26-year-old faces 5 charges there in Pennsylvania, including forgery and carrying firearms without a license.
In America, we do not kill people in cold blood to resolve policy differences or express a viewpoint.
Mangione graduated as valedictorian of his high school class in 2016. That was in Maryland. And he received a Bachelor of Science degree in 2020 from the University of Pennsylvania and a master's degree from the same Ivy League school. He was born and raised in Maryland, and he has ties to San Francisco and Honolulu. Investigators are still working to learn more about his motive. They say they found a document with his handwriting that suggested he had ill will toward corporate America. He also held a ghost gun, they say. In world news, after more than 50 years of brutal rule, there's no longer a member of the Assad family running Syria. Bashar al-Assad and his family fled to Russia as rebels celebrated victory in Damascus. The U.S. is monitoring the situation, but President-elect Donald Trump says America should stay out of it. Now, Scripps News White House correspondent Serena Marshall has the latest from Washington.
President Biden's administration racing to address questions of stabilization in the Middle East after the toppling of Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria. Now, the regime had been in place for at least the last 3 presidential administrations, more than 25 years, but toppled in a matter of days by a Syrian rebel group. President Biden tying the collapse of the Assad regime directly to actions in Israel and Ukraine, the U.S. supporting Ukraine against Russian aggression and against Iran and their proxies with respect to Israel. He said it made it impossible for Russia and Iran to continue to prop up the Assad regime. But now there's a power vacuum in Syria. The United States and her partners working to address concerns extremist groups could try to capitalize on it. President Biden saying we're clear-eyed about the fact that ISIS will try to take advantage of that vacuum.
It's a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria to build a better future for their proud country. It's also a moment of risk and uncertainty. As we all turn to the question of what comes next, the United States will work with our partners and the stakeholders in Syria to help them seize an opportunity to manage the risks.
In his remarks, he reminded Americans the rebel group that toppled the autocrat had their own, quote, grim record of terrorism, once an affiliate of al-Qaeda, but have since broken with the older organization and a designated terrorist organization by the administration. President Biden stressing that the rebels are saying the right things now, but they're watching their actions, not their words. President-elect Trump also weighing in on social media that Assad fled because, quote, his protector, Russia, led by Vladimir Putin, was not interested in protecting him any longer. There was no reason for Russia to be there in the first place. That post following another on Saturday in which Trump urged America to stay out of the conflict, writing, Syria is a mess, but is not our friend, and the United States should have nothing to do with it. This is not our fight. Let it play out. Do not get involved. Those posts perhaps a signal from the incoming president about his posture in the Middle East come January. Serena Marshall, Scripps News, Washington.
Daniel Penny has been found not guilty of criminally negligent homicide in the death of Jordan Neely, a black man and a street artist who died on a subway car. After the verdict by a Manhattan jury was read today, there was applause inside the courtroom, and Penny could be seen smiling at jurors and looking visibly relieved. This case has been seen worldwide. It's gained attention because of an image of a black man being held by the throat by a white man. His team said he was acting in self-defense because Neely was being erratic and threatening passengers. Following the verdict, Penny's attorney released a statement calling the prosecution of his client misguided. Rapper Jay-Z's name was added to a lawsuit accusing him and Sean Diddy Combs of raping a 13-year-old girl at a party in the year 2000. Scripps News correspondent Katia Tubman reports on the allegations and the response from Jay-Z.
Music mogul Jay-Z is now accused in an amended civil lawsuit of raping a 13-year-old. The rapper is vehemently denying the allegations. Rapper Jay-Z is denying accusations of raping a 13-year-old girl with Sean Diddy Combs in 2000. According to the now amended civil lawsuit, the two men drugged and raped the girl at an after-party following the MTV Video Music Awards. In a statement, Jay-Z called the allegations idiotic and heinous and attacked attorney Tony Busby, who filed the suit. What he had calculated was the nature of these allegations and the public scrutiny would make me want to settle, Jay-Z said about Busby. No, sir, it had the opposite effect. It made me want to expose you for the fraud you are. Jay-Z also questioned why the allegation was filed as a civil lawsuit instead of a criminal complaint.
Sometimes criminal statutes of limitations are more strict than on the civil side. And so that could be why we're seeing this filed as a civil case in 2024 and not a criminal complaint.
Busby is a Texas-based attorney who has filed over a dozen sexual assault lawsuits against Combs. This is the first filing that includes another high-profile celebrity. Attorney Eric Faddis, who is not involved in the case, wonders if it could be the first of many.
This is the first high-profile individual who has been disclosed as being allegedly associated in Diddy's sexual misconduct. And I think a lot of people are wondering, are the cards going to begin to fall?
In a statement to Scripps News, Busby said, "We will let the filing speak for itself and will litigate the facts in court, not in the media." Katie Tubman, Scripps News, New York.
And Sean Diddy Combs is still being held in a jail in New York while he awaits his trial on federal sex trafficking charges. That's set to begin in May. Coming up, Ironman triathlon organizers say they wanted to stay in St. George. So why are they about to leave? Surprising answers from our Southern Utah Bureau.
And before we go to break, sharing a photo coming up on our Facebook page highlighting Heber Valley here at sunset. Beautiful, where over the past few days we've had fog and of course we had the haze, but we're free of the fog and haze for now. Will that change? I'll let you know coming up.
St. George and Washington County say this May's 70.3 Ironman Triathlon World Championship would be the last in the area, but the leader of the Ironman's North America operations says the separation was not mutual. City and county officials say the closures and use of public safety have become too much of a burden, and that outweighs the $42 million that has been generated annually by the Ironman. Ironman Vice President Keats McGonigal says that the triathlon wants to stay and will always be open to a change of heart.
We're absolutely open to that conversation. And, there is, in my mind, there's a chance that this is a see you later, not necessarily a goodbye type of situation.
Officials have said hosting the Ironman has paved the way for bigger events in the area like the PGA and LPGA tours, and they say those will generate more dollars annually to the local economy than did the Ironman. Today, the American Red Cross partnered with the Salt Lake City Fire Department to highlight the dangers that Christmas trees and holiday decor can have if not taken care of properly. According to the National Fire Protection Association, nearly 1/3 of all Christmas tree-related fires happen in January when dry trees become highly flammable. Watering your tree daily and unplugging the holiday lights at bedtime are simple practices that could help keep your household safe. Each year, U.S. fire departments respond to an average of 155 Christmas tree fires and over 800 fires sparked by holiday lights, candles, and other decorations. If you have a real tree, it is important to check your lights before hanging them. Make sure to position the tree as well, at least 3 feet away from heat sources. Never use lit candles to decorate the tree, and dispose of the tree once it dries out. Coming up, he is familiar to college football fans in the Beehive State. We hear from Bronco Mendenhall as he joins the Utah State Aggies as their new head coach. And one Utah Jazz player is giving back this holiday season. We'll take you along for this special shopping spree. Oh, the weather now. It's not frightful.
No.
You might say delightful.
Delightful?
Yes. You saw where I was going because it was painfully obvious.
Oh, it was obvious.
But it is delightful.
It is delightful. What would make it more delightful, though, to kind of put us more into the mood of the season, would get some snow, see that winter wonderland with a fresh blanket of that snow, which of course this last storm didn't do much. Outside right now in Salt Lake City, we're seeing a few clouds around, even a few flurries, but this is not the snow we're looking for. Yeah, we'd like to get that big storm that would put several inches up in the mountains. As we're looking ahead, we're not going to see any big storms roll through, but we see enough storms moving in. Even though they're weak, it will help out with the air quality. Now, tomorrow through Wednesday, it's a transition. We will build in some haze as high pressure quickly settles in. That will allow us to kind of see air quality decreasing just a little bit, but we do have a system moving through Thursday into Friday morning, and then another one for Sunday. So this is at least good news on the air quality front. Now, looking ahead for St. George, we're not seeing much precipitation precipitation in your forecast. Maybe an isolated mountain shower heading into the weekend as that storm moves through. Here across northern Utah, though, a better chance as we're going to see some scattered mixture of rain and snow Thursday afternoon into Friday overnight. We'll see a little bit of snow even for the valley floors, and then another storm pushing through. Again, these are coming in from the west, so they're a little bit warmer, but they will generate they'll generate some snow up in the mountains. Now, high pressure again will quickly settle in. This storm system has been moving on. Our next storm lining up again on tap to reach us on Thursday. Let's take a look at the computer models and show you the transition here over the next 48 hours. Where for tomorrow, that high pressure around, we're keeping it clear and sunny. Wednesday, we bring in the clouds being pushed in with that storm system. Again, it's going to be generating mainly activity here across northern through central Utah, pushing through Thursday afternoon into Friday morning. Again, it's a mixture of rain and snow starting off, and then we'll see some snow all the way down through central Utah, northeastern Utah as well. We're avoiding, though, as you can see, across the south. Now, morning commute, you'll see a few clouds. It's a cold start. Temperatures slow to climb as we go from the 20s to the low 30s, heading into the mid-morning hours, with highs only reaching the mid to upper 30s here along the Wasatch Front. So slightly below average. We've got the sunshine. We'll see a little haze. A little bit cool, but warming up for St. George. You get into the 50s, even upper 50s for the weekend. You're not seeing the precipitation, not looking too bad here in northern Utah. There's that chance of some scattered rain and snow Thursday afternoon. Friday, starting off with some snow. Saturday, you're okay, but then that next wave pushing through. All in all, we'll find temperatures remaining above average, and for the most part, we're keeping the haze away.
Thanks, Breck. Well, you know, Utah State University just introduced their 31st head football coach, and he is a familiar face. Bronco Mendenhall took the podium this morning to speak about the future of Aggie football and what he values in a successful football team. Fox 13 sports reporter Andrea Urban has the story from Logan.
Please join me in welcoming Utah State University's 31st head football coach, Bronco Mendenhall.
First, it's building a local Utah-bred roster and also an emphasis on community outreach on and off the football field.
What you'll be getting with the head coach in myself is that, results absolutely matter, but how we accomplish that, it matters even more. I care about these young people, who they become, what they do with their lives, how they play, but ultimately, if they're influencing this community in a positive way. I love the idea of the majority of this team coming from our state. I love the idea of us being dominant in our footprint. Expectations for the program will be so clear and so transparent and so consistent with fierce accountability that really it doesn't allow anyone to remain neutral. You're with us or you're not.
The transfer portal opens today, and his first step as head coach is analyzing the current roster, the new signees, and of course, the portal.
Thrilled, also anxious. Right now, the transfer portal is open, and someone's wondering, what is that? And we're going to get sucked in. And so the first step, just to be clear, my staff is right now evaluating our current roster. This current team, they didn't choose me. They'll have a chance to choose me over the upcoming months. And then here's the transfer portal in addition to that. The combination of all that will form this upcoming team, and we're on the clock. Amazing football transforms communities, and who would think that could happen? The Aggies winning in football and doing it consistently and well and doing it the right way, it can become the identity not only of the community but an entire state. Thank you all so much. Really glad to be here and glad to be your coach.
Bronco Mendenhall comes to Utah State after spending a lone season with the University of New Mexico. In the past, he spent 11 seasons with BYU, but this Alpine native is all in on Utah State University. In Logan, Andrea Urban, Fox 13 Sports, Utah.
And University of Utah quarterback Cam Rising is not expected to return to the Utes program, even if he were to be granted an 8th year of new eligibility with a medical redshirt. 8th year. Okay, this is all according to 247sports.com. Most NFL careers are, 3 or 4 years, I think. It's not yet clear if Rising would transfer to another school or declare for the NFL draft. After leading the Utes to back-to-back Pac-12 conference championships in 2021 and 2022, Rising has had issues staying healthy and has barely played in the season since, with an ACL injury and then hand and ankle injuries last season. Well, despite head coach Kyle Whittingham's announcement Sunday that he would be returning for a 21st season, Utah's quarterback roster is dangerously thin. Isaac Wilson, Brandon Rose, and Sam Heward are all entering the transfer portal with an intent to leave the Utes program. Well, we're hearing from BYU head football coach Kalani Sitake after Sunday's announcement of the Cougars taking on Coach Prime Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes in the Alamo Bowl on Saturday, December 28th. Both teams just missed the Big 12 championship, which Arizona State won over the weekend. This matchup will be the first meeting between BYU and Colorado since the Freedom Bowl in 1988.
There's tons of talent on that team and a lot of dangerous weapons that Coach Prime and his staff can use, and they've made some really good plays, man, and they're in a really good spot, and that's why they're ranked. So we're excited about the matchup. Obviously, we know that this is going to get the best out of us. I'm really excited about what this can do for us in the future and what it can do, to help springboard us into 2025.
In response to the bowl game announcement, the Colorado Buffaloes football team posted on their X account just 4 words, quote, "Let's bring it home." Is the Alamo Bowl trophy is its home in Colorado? I guess so. Walker Kessler of the Utah Jazz giving back this holiday season. Today, he treated 10 kids from the Midvale Boys and Girls Club to a shopping spree at a Walmart in West Jordan. Each kid received a $200 gift card to shop for anything they chose across the store. And the fact that they got to shop around with a Utah Jazz star made it an unforgettable trip.
It's the holidays and spreading, holiday cheer, Christmas cheer, giving back to the community. Coming here, seeing these kids, their smiles, make it all worth it. So, getting them gifts and stuff like that, engaging with the kids, so it's a lot of fun.
Well, some kids use this opportunity to purchase thoughtful gifts for their siblings and other family members. One boy even got a teddy bear for his mom. We'll be right back. Well, what can he say except you're welcome? Finally, Moana 2 has raked in $600 million globally after just 2 weekends in movie theaters. Is Maui in this one? You've seen this.
Yes, he is.
So Maui's in this one. Okay, so you're welcome applies. Studio estimates indicate the animated Disney film brought in $52 million over the weekend. That breaks a 2019 box office record from the film Frozen 2, which earned more than $35 million during the same time frame. The movie has already broken into the top 5 highest grossing movies of 2024. There you go.
Still going. Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you for watching Fox. That's all we have to say. News at 9. The Quick Gas is up next. Stick around.